Good morning. So on today's video we're going to be looking at performing some checks on the discs, front discs in particular, and also the pads for the 2003 Jaguar S-Type R. Now the 2002.5 manufacture year S-Type R, such as this one here, does benefit from the Brembo brakes. So these are 4 pistons, so 2 pistons either side of each brake pad on the caliper here, and we've also got 365mm rotors or discs on here as well, so quite an impressive setup. And unusually we've also got the four piston setup and calipers on the rear as well, with discs of course. So why am I doing this? The reason I'm doing this is that I've noticed on high-speed braking I am starting to get a bit of judder. So what I want to do is just do a little bit of troubleshooting by looking at the disc, measuring the disc thickness using a vernier caliper. Also going to check the pads as well, but more importantly I want to use a dial test gauge to measure the run out. So there's quite a bit to this, and the good news is that we're well supported by information from the Jaguar manual. So just turning to some of the tools I'm going to be using today, I've got my 3-ton Rockwood trolley jack and puck, mechanics crawler mat, some chocks for the rear wheels, and down here I've also got my torque wrench, 1/2-inch drive torque wrench. I've also got the digital vernier caliper. Just noting that down here we've got the pointed bits that enables me to get access to the right part of the disc, just to avoid any lips on the side of the edge of the discs or the rotors. I've also got a quick test Nielsen brake pad tester here, which is quite handy. You can see we've got measurements on here, and we've got a color coordinate as well, so it's a really quick and easy way to check how much material is left on your brake pads. And then over here, I mentioned earlier, we've got the dial test gauge. And here, I've just printed off an extract from the manual concerning the brake system on the S-Type R. This actually covers all of the different S-Types derivatives. And what I've done is I've just tagged out using some colour felt pens, just the pertinent information. So things around nominal and minimum thickness for discs and pads, and also the run out tolerance on these as well. And what I've done, just to make life a little bit easier for myself, is I've kind of created this master sheet here. So I've literally just sketched out the orientation of the car as a box, front and rear annotated here. And what I've done, I've just transposed all of that tolerance information into marking up where the discs are, the run out values, the pad thickness and nominal values. Same for the rear parking discs, these are actually separate. So that's all the information I'm going to be using today. I've got my mechanics perch just here, and I've just got a 1/2-inch driver, and I've also got my locking wheel nut accessory down here. So I think I've got all the tools to crack on. So let's start by jacking up the car and getting the front wheel off. Okay, so front wheel's off, and I'm just having a look at the disc, and also more importantly at this time checking the brake pads and the caliper. So if I just bring the camera around, what I'm doing is, what I'm able to do is just get in there and see with this how much is left on the pad. So this is a 5mm, so there is about 5mm left on here, and commensurately on the other side, if I just get in between behind the rattle pad, there is another, which would you expect, about 5mm. So if I refer to my annotated sheet for the front pads, we're looking at a maximum of 10.3mm, and a minimum of 2mm. So we've got 5mm on both sides, so they're halfway worn. Before I do this run out, I'm actually just checking the thickness of the disc using these digital vernier caliper, and I'm coming up with around 30.55mm. The tolerance should be between 30mm and 32, so we're more than halfway worn on these, but still within tolerance. So DTI gauge is in place. I've used the magnetic clamp against the shock absorber because that's magnetic. The caliper and the wishbone isn't. So I've got it pointing just away from the direction of travel. I'm going to rotate the discs or the rotors in the direction of travel they'd normally be. So the DTI engagement is set to 0. So what I'm going to do is just gently turn this. Now there's going to be a little bit of play in this, but if I just move it around, you can see we've gone to a minus figure. So keep rotating it around. So now you can see it coming -6. Oh, now we're back to plus 0.03 or 0.25. I just keep going around. So we know we've done a complete rotation of the disc, and I think it's pretty safe to say that we've got some run out now. Now the challenge is whether the run out is the disc, probably, or if it could even be the wheel hub itself. So we're probably going to have to look to replace the front discs and pads, I think, on this basis, even if the other side's running completely true, just because this side isn't. And we always replace the discs and rotors and pads in pairs, right? So we're now going to start prepping up for changing the discs and pads on the front axle. To help with this process, I've got to drain out some brake fluid from the reservoir and the brake master cylinder up here. I'm just going to take it from its maximum level down to the min level. I'm going to do this using this handy syringe, and I'm going to retain that brake fluid because there's a good chance I might want to put some of it back if I've overdrained this. The reason for doing this is making sure that we've got room for the brake fluid to well up when we come round to compress the 2 Brembo 4 piston calipers, and I'm not sure how much brake fluid will back up through the system, and the last thing I want to do is have the cap off of this and have brake fluid just like go all over the paintwork and everything like that. So that's what I'm going to do. Just going to rest the cap back on there. I'm not going to do it up. There we go. Okay, the car is now jacked up. If I come down here, you can see I've got on a couple of 6-ton axle stands. Probably a little bit overkill in terms of 6-ton, but 3-ton would be fine. And the reason I've taken up both sides is that it enables a couple of things to happen. Firstly, when I take the wheels off, it means I can change the direction of the wheels so I can get better access to the calipers. And the other thing it will do is when I angle the wheel in, like so, it means I should have a little bit more purchase on the caliper bolts, because those caliper bolts will be on at around 200 plus Newton meters. So I need to get a bit of purchase and leverage on it to make sure that they come off cleanly. So let's crack on, take the wheels off and start stripping down those calipers. So what I'm going to do now is I'm literally going to drive out the rattle pins just here for the rattle clip, and I just use a little punch to do that, and then relieve the rattle clip, and then I'll look to pull out the pads. It's fine. And then once we've done that, we'll then have a look to see if I can get those caliper bolts off. actually. One. Spring clip. So we're going to use this puller to help with these. There we go, that's one pad off. Look like these are EBC reds by the looks of it. Got it. So it's just going to be this one in here I'm just going to try and take off. Okay. There we go. So I've taken the two 18mm bolts off. So they're just sitting there and there, upper and lower. And I've got the caliper supported by another jack stand just here. And it's just sitting quite comfortably. Really important to make sure that none of the braided cables or anything like that get trapped or damaged. So you've got the pistons just in here, here and here, there and there, and I'll be looking to wind them back a little bit later on after I've perhaps cleaned up the caliper. Next thing is to look at the little placer rings just here. It's probably not the right term for them, but I just need to release them. They're holding the disc in place. Just need to get some needle nose pliers and work them out, and then just twist them out. And then we should be able to just lift off the old disc, and then we'll see what state the wheel hub is underneath. Okay, so the disc is now off. Took a little while because there are a couple of these sort of star tab style kind of washers which just seat the disc in place. They were a little bit of a pain to unwind off the thread, so a little bit of scoring on the thread there, but that can be sorted out. Main thing is just cleaning up the surface areas where the disc sits. So it's this lip round here, and also just in here as well. So all the way around there, making sure that's really nice and clean. The rest of it I'll give it a bit of a clean up, but that doesn't actually really touch the disc. It's really just this surface around here and this surface around here. They're raised, they're slightly proud of the rest of it, so this doesn't really do much, and we'll probably rust up anyway, but I just want to make sure we get nice and clean around there. So that's the next job. I'll get the wire brush, and I've also got a drill attachment to do that as well. Okay, I've cleaned up the lip of the hub as best I can, so it feels a bit smoother. Similar for the inner lip in here as well. It's not 100%, but it's a lot better than it was. I've also wiped down the caliper as best I can. So the next thing I want to do is compress the pistons back into their fullest extent, so we've got room for the new brake pads to go in there. And then we'll have a go at fitting up the, after I've greased this with some high temperature grease. I've got some red rubber grease, just a little dab around the edges. I'll then start to fit the new disc. Where am I going? I'm going that way. Right, there we go. Let's see what I can do. Okay, that's biting, so I'll just carry on winding that back. And these, make sure they're completely in. Yep, let's bring the camera around, so hopefully, let's bring that down to where I am. So hopefully in there you can see the pistons are now completely enclosed within the caliper. So I've got good tension on here, so now I'm good to know that when we come to put the caliper back on over the disc, we've got enough clearance to get the new pads in. So this is what I'll be using, some red rubber grease, silica and castor based grease. It's high temperature, and I'm just going to smear that around the pistons in the caliper. So that's all been done. Just smeared the high temperature grease around there, and also in there and there as well. So we're all ready, all good. So now we'll look to get the new discs. So I've actually gone for some Italian discs, same quality if not slightly better than Brembo maybe. Let's go and get them and have a look. Okay, so here's the new and old brake discs side by side. You can see that these are grooved. As I say, these are Tarox. They're recommended by Swallows Racing. They're the same 365 diameter disc size. Difference is that the original Brembos don't have the cleaning lines in here, so we'll get them so that these discs are in a direction of travel. Pads, and you can see here there's a sort of a tapered chamfered edge, and we'll make sure that they're fitted such that when you apply them, it's always that leading edge that takes up the resistance. So now I'm just going to unpack the new disc and offer that up onto the hub. Oh, it's cleaned up, just being careful not to get any grease on these. Let's see. There we are. The first thing we'll do is refit these star washers. So they really want to go opposite sides. So we'll do that. And I'm just going to use a $19mm socket to push that on. Probably wind them on actually. Just wind that in. Also, just a note, I did actually just clean up the surface of these with some brake cleaner, just because although it didn't feel greasy, you never know if any protective film's been put on them. Let's wind that in. It's easy to push that in. So, point to note, these aren't actually holding these on. They are literally just to help position the disc. Now we should be able to push on with fitting up the caliper. So with the caliper, we just need to be careful that we don't get any grease on the disc. So let's gently open this up. Should we get it aligned? So I'm just going to screw in these 18mm caliper bolts. So now I can start tightening it up. So these, as I say, is the 18mm. So let's go with that. Right, now I think we shall fit the new brake discs, brake pads even. Got them just here. So we want one just fitting in here, and then the other one making sure that leading edge is at the bottom. Now I need to fit the rattle clip. Put this in place. cleaned up pin just to place hold of them. Get this with the top pump. Again, it's been cleaned up. Sure, got a pin there, nice. Currently just tapping through. No problem with that. There we go. That's this side done. Okay, so they're all fitted in, and I fitted on the bolts, excluding the security bolt, just tightened to around 20-25 Newton meters. I've also fitted the dial test gauge again, so about 0.06 or 0.07 difference by the looks of it. Okay, so just checking, the DTI gauge on the other side revealed that the driver's side, or off side, is slightly out of tolerance in terms of the DTI gauge reading. The recommended max tolerance is 0.076 of a millimeter. I think I'm kind of getting up to around 11, as in 0.11, which is not great. I think it may be possibly the wheel hub. I did clean it up, but I may need to have a replacement wheel hub on it, but it's better than it was. Previously, I think was looking at a tolerance difference of around 0.18, so it's definitely better. So what I'm going to do now is just quickly show you the brake fluid. So if you remember earlier, we decided to evacuate some fluid. Well, actually, given where I've pushed the 4-pot pistons on both calipers out to their max to put the new ones in, you can see that the brake fluid level has actually gone up from min all the way up to max. So I'm quite glad I extracted some of the fluid. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to refit the tyres once I've straightened the steering, and then I'm going to pump the brake pedal a couple of times, and what we should see is the calipers adjust. So actually I'll do that before I put the wheels on, and then we'll just recheck the brake fluid level, and then we may well need to top it up with some of the fluid we evacuated this morning. So let's go and straighten up and see what we can do. So I was able to switch the ignition to position 2, didn't start it up, and then literally I just pumped the brake pedal about 7 or 8 times until it felt consistent, and you can see here the gap between the pad and the disc is now ratcheted out, so that now means it's all sorted. I've checked the other side as well, so I'm happy with that. The wheel still spins as well, that's even better, isn't it? So that's all good. So now what I'm going to do is just literally pop on the wheels, torque up the nuts, and then we should be good. So I've just refilled the brake fluid reservoir to the max, having pumped the brakes this earlier, and you can see here in the syringe what's left over. I'd say that's around about 28 millilitres, so obviously it's dripping away a little bit, but that just shows how much extra fluid is used when the brake pads are maybe a half worn. If they're fully worn, you could be looking at maybe 50 or 60 millilitres being drawn from the system. This is obviously just prevalent to the S-Type R with the Brembo 365 diameter discs and Brembo 4-pot calipers. I think the later cars use ATE brakes. The discs are around 355 millimeters, so a little bit smaller. So that's pretty much it. All that's left to do now is tidy up. The wheel nuts have been torqued, everything's all in place. So I think that's it. Tidy up the tools, and then I think tomorrow just a bit of a test drive to start bedding in the new discs and pads. Well, thanks very much for watching. I hope you found this useful. If you do have any questions concerning this procedure, do ask in the comments section, and I'll do my best to come back to you. Thanks a lot.